Well, welcome back, everybody, at Before and Afters, where we watch movies before... No, wait, actually, we don't watch movies before we talk about movies before we watch them, and then we go to the cinema, check them out, come back, and then give our opinion about what we've just seen. Expert opinion. And this week, it's one of those movies everyone is already talking about.
If you guys haven't guessed, we're watching
Home Alone
Galactica.
We're
not. God damn it! I always get them confused. I'm like, Home Alone 2, Battlestar Galactica. It's basically the same thing.
What I keep forgetting to say is that, like, obviously a lot of people are seeing this on YouTube, but we're also on Spotify and we're also on Apple Podcasts.
And Disney Plus.
And Disney Plus, and Mickey Mouse owes us a lot of money.
He does, son of a bitch.
We're gonna sell them a shit ton of tickets for their big blockbuster movie that's currently out in the cinema
that no one's seen yet, but they will after we've reviewed it.
And not for the good reason. I actually haven't seen it, so I can't even say it.
Yeah.
What is it? The Skywalker
Ranch.
The Return of the Skywalkers.
The Last of the Skywalkers.
Man, like the fact that I actually even don't know the title.
You know what I was thinking?
Says a few things about how much I care about.
I was thinking about this on the drive home today. I was thinking that I actually haven't seen any trailers for this, and then I was thinking,
I have purposefully not seen any trailers for this.
I haven't gone out of my way not to watch them, like blocking my ears and not looking. I just haven't been interested.
Right.
Like,
I feel that the last installment just did a piss poor job to
get the hype going.
I mean, like, where can they go from here?
I mean, I think, you're right, because like, I remember when we decided, you were saying, oh, we should do this Star Wars as a podcast, and I was like, oh shit, I haven't even seen Last Jedi, I better go watch it.
Yeah.
And I made about 20 minutes into that movie, and I was like, wait a second, I have seen this.
Yeah.
And then I started fast forwarding through it, and I was like, oh no, I do remember this bit, and then I got to the end, and I was like, shit, I have seen this entire film, and like, I just forgot it, because it's that unmemorable.
Right.
To me, like, as a story, like, it just, like, once, it wasn't until I, like you were saying, that the scene where the ship gets like blasted in half, like when that guy when she goes light speed through it, fucking cool shots,
epic,
like
epic.
It's got some awesome shots, but
I feel that shot and the battle at the end on that salt thing, like the red with the white, just was visually very cool, but story-wise just weak as fuck.
Yeah. Sorry, Ryan Johnson.
Nah, I mean, like, and to be honest, like, I feel it just shat on the Force Awakens. Like, I know that you're not particularly impressed with the Force Awakens. I always really kind of dug it, as in, like, I felt like it was a fan service film, and that's kind of what I wanted, and I felt like a lot of the fans wanted, like, take us back to the feeling,
right?
Not make the same thing, but take us back to the feeling we had in the first 3 films.
Yeah. I mean, they did kind of copy it, though. They did kind of copy it.
The stories, but you know what? I'd rather they have copy it and make it feel what I want it to feel like, than they try something like, George Lucas Episode 1, 2, and 3, and I just kind of felt that was. I mean, yeah, I felt that didn't do as well.
That's true.
They're doing this as much of a justice to the first 3 movies.
But, like, I mean, like, here's an unpopular opinion. I'll see how people react to this one on the channel. I fucking loved Episode 1. But
when you watched it,
when I watched it,
when you watch it now,
I haven't seen it for a long time. But when I watched it I don't know how old I was when it came out, like 10 or 11 or something. I was just like, this is the shit. Like, I was just like, pod races. I wanted to be a pod racer. The lightsaber battles, I was like, they're so fast, and like they're like basically like fast as samurai things going around. And then when I, like compared to the original ones, like for a kid, it was just like that shit was. Even Gungans. I thought Jar Jar was funny back when I was like 12 years old. It's like that sort of, it's a 12-year-old's humor. He's basically talking to you like you're a baby.
So I think this is where it's very different, right? Like, where if Episode 1, 2, and 3, if those are your first, like, if that's the introduction to Star Wars as a young person, like, maybe you've seen the older movies before that, but like, I feel like if you're young and those movies are coming out, they're amazing. Like, there are visual effects in there that you've never seen before. It's in a scale that you've never seen before. You're young, so you're a bit more, susceptible to that more young humor.
Yeah,
I totally understand that. I think because when I watched it, I was fine with it too. Like that, like I wasn't wasn't massively into Star Wars. I was quite young. I enjoyed the movies. It was fine to me. I didn't really get all the hate it was getting. But I feel like if you grew up with the original 3 movies,
right,
and like obviously
is
you're
that
a little
what's
bit older by
happening
that
now?
point.
Is that what's happening now?
We're the new old people.
We're the new old people who hate on that. But then, like in retrospect, the first ones were shit. So are we actually right?
What, you mean episode 1, 2, and 3, or 4, 5, and 6?
I mean, in retrospect, episode 1, 2, and 3 was shit, right?
I definitely lost. Over time, I definitely like 4, 5, and 6 more.
Yeah.
Than I like 1, 2, and 3. I think as a whole story, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
yeah,
it's fine. And I think episode 7, like the Force Awakens, ultimately didn't really add anything to the saga. Like I wish that at the time they already steered away from the whole Skywalker saga or storyline. But in the end, I felt like, all right, J.J. Abrams did it. Like visually and storytelling wise, it was all coherent. I felt it was solid. I wouldn't say it was the best thing they could have done or the most, out there thing that they could have done. But I felt they played it safe. He did it well, and it paid off.
I think so too. Actually, yeah.
But then episode 8 just shat all over that.
Yeah.
Like it didn't consider the storyline of episode 7 that much. It had all these opportunities to go interesting ways, and it didn't. And it just kind of, gave us characters that we don't need.
Yeah.
So...
It gave us characters that we don't need, killed them off in that same...
Didn't progress the story at all. It was just basically a 2-hour-long chase of a ship that was too slow to get away.
Yeah.
And we've all been watching it. And it's just like, I was so disappointed with that.
And I also, I mean, like, I think I've said this to you before. So far, I don't like Kylo Ren as a bad guy.
Yeah, I think but then I agree, but I feel like he's such a millennial bad guy. Such an emo, whingy little bitch.
Yeah.
As a bad guy. And it kind of like almost, it's what we deserve as a bad guy. Well, even though he's quite shit compared to Darth Vader or, some of the bad guys that we've recently.
But like, there's a lot of things that, like in Last Jedi at least, I found there were a lot of things that, like in the early movies, the Resistance being good won the battle. Like, oh, like Luke's such a good pilot, he can do this. Like, Thingy's such a good pilot, they can do this, and they, such a good Jedi, or like they set up a good trap or something like this. Whereas in this one here, it was like, oh, look, they're gonna all get away, except that like Kylo Ren's so mad and focused on this one thing. He's like, you guys gotta fire all your stuff at this, and then they do, and because he was so stupid and selfish, they get away. The other guys get away or get an opportunity to do something, and I'm just kind of like.
But didn't Darth Vader do similar things? Kind of told people to do things against the general's wills and stuff. It's like you do this, like when he says like, your lack of faith in me disturbs me or something like that. Whatever the famous quote.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I mean, maybe
he was kind of like a little.
No, but he was like in charge. But
player.
he was making a power plays in a way that made like him seem like a badass general.
Yeah.
Like when he decided to do something, it was generally because he was this is
He's
the way to do it. He's the superior, and he knows the best, best. Whereas this was just like Kylo Ren just throwing a tantrum, and then fucking it up for everybody. And I'm like, maybe you actually are good this whole time, and you just playing them from the inside. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Right. I mean, I think at least the Force Awakens gave us gave us an opportunity for Kylo Ren to be a really cool villain. The fact that he kills his own father.
Yeah.
That whole scene is pretty cool where he just kind of breaks down, and then, it's kind of like the turn, and we're like, oh shit, he's really vicious. And when he was wearing the helmet and that kind of stuff, it kind of, for me, it all went away when the helmet went away in the second movie. And there was like so much emphasis on the fact that there's this connection between Rey and Kylo Ren. The second movie in this trilogy kind of ruined everything. Because, like, even though Kylo Ren wasn't quite a perfect bad guy, like, when we got introduced to Darth Vader, he was a very developed villain. He was already trained, he was ready to go. Like, Kylo Ren felt a little bit more in the earlier stages of a Darth Vader. He admired Darth Vader. I think there were some really interesting things where this could have gone, but the second movie just killed every opportunity to create a really strong and great saga. And that's kind of, The Force Awakens, not the best movie ever made, not the best Star Wars movie by far, but it could have been a really great start to a really good saga. And that's what the second movie kind of destroyed for me. I could have been really excited about this movie, but I'm not so excited because the second movie didn't set up the saga. Like, it kind of, destroyed the saga for me. And I was kind of wondering if, how much Abrams can save by coming back. But ultimately, it also makes me excited to see what, to have him back, because he set this all up, and let's see where he can take it,
Sweet. Well, should we roll this trailer then?
Let's roll the trailer, and then let's roll to the cinema. Hit me.
It's an instinct. A feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
But I do.
Long have I waited. And now you're coming together. Is your undoing.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir. At my friends.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny. The Force will be with you.
Always.
Well, I don't know about you, but it seems like that trailer right at the end spoils the fact that Princess Leia's gonna die.
I mean, she has to, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like straight away, it's like they're both in the Force.
I'm so not impressed by this trailer,
No,
Like, I mean, it looks fine.
It looks nice.
It looks good. There's a lot of pretty environments in there, but I feel like this movie, they're focused so much about this is the end. Did episode 6 focus on this is the end? No, there's like, 5 minutes, 3 minutes at the end of the movie where, he, like the Ewoks dance and shit. And like, and the same for episode 3 or whatever, episode 1. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be great. Like, it's going to be spectacle. But what have I seen in this trailer that should really excite me? Plus, the only thing that excited me was Palpatine. And then I thought, why didn't they bring him in the second movie so we can have a bigger setup and a bigger payoff? Yeah, I find it super hard to say anything about this because I feel the trailer doesn't really give us very much, except for, like, these are all the people in the movie. Like, everyone's going to be in there.
Here's all the characters from the movie. Honestly, I don't, like, for me, I don't have much to say about it either, and I think it's because, like, I find all the characters in this new series forgettable.
Yeah,
like the biggest stars of this whole series are the characters from the old one, like Luke and Leia and Han in the first one, and I feel like they're still the main characters that the other guys are just
coasting off.
Yeah, like extras for, like they're like setups for, and it's like
Who
even though
is this
Rey and I don't even know the other guy's name.
Kylo?
No.
The Poe?
No.
Yeah.
What's the other guy's? No, Poe's the pilot.
Yeah.
Who's the ex-stormtrooper?
That's the pilot, no?
No.
Oh, Boyega. How do they call him?
See, we don't even know his name.
I know,
It's pretty bad.
and I consider myself a fan of the franchise. Like, not a massive fan. Like, I'm not a fanboy.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm very fascinated. And I know what Star Wars has done for the visual effects industry, which is obviously a big part of my life. So, like, I respect the franchise on all these different levels.
Yeah. So it's the same here, but I think that's the thing.
And
It's like I played, I watched all the early movies as a kid. Like, I wouldn't call myself a fanboy either, but I played Star Wars video games back in the day.
It's a great, entertaining story, right? Like, there's so much there. It's one of those properties that have so much depth to it. There's so much backstory to everything. Yeah. You watch the movies, you feel that there's a word. Like, it's kind of like a Tolkien story. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, and that's what made it always so exciting to kind of watch and kind of like play with that universe. And then we got all these new movies, and some of them landed and some of them totally don't. But like, as you said, like, these characters, Rey and Kylo Ren. Like, what have they done? What have they done in the last movie that is memorable? Like, nothing. I know nothing about Rey. She suddenly could hold a lightsaber, At least Luke got some training. He got some guidance,
Yeah.
And I feel there's so many corners being cut. But I want this movie to be good. So...
Well, I mean, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to have crazy cool environments, but sometimes I wonder if that's maybe almost a problem. Like, there's so many cool set pieces.
Yeah. But I think that they go out of, like, it's almost too much, right?
Yeah. It's
like the set pieces are not what I'm going for the movie. I want to have a good story. I want to have a good villain I can hate. I want good heroes I can root for, and I feel from the trailer that, it's very heavy on the environments. Like, so many different locations, so many big effects. Like,
and it's gorgeous, but it's like, in order to fit that many different planets into a film or that many different locations, like, you've just got to cut back on how much time is ever spent on one. Yeah. And it's just, and like, especially when you've got battles happening here and like spaceship flights happening here, I feel like you have to jump around through the story so much that you like you say, you have to cut corners and cut like out a lot of meaningful elements of your film in order to get these set pieces in.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a trend these days that we are cutting character development out of our films, and it is more about spectacle. And considering that Star Wars is such a money-making business property, and Disney owns it, I'm not surprised that they're making a movie for the masses. Like, I don't expect them to make a Joker, a movie for a small audience, and then it kind of finds a big audience.
Yeah.
But I mean, shit, man. Like, it always kind of frustrates me if you spend so much money with a property that's already so well developed. Like, how difficult can it be to come up with something at least respectable? Something that just we all kind of deserve.
Right.
But like, we can't judge from the trailer. It's difficult. So
yeah,
I'm gonna drop a 3 stars, and I'm just kind of keen to see the movie and see what it's gonna do.
I'm gonna lowball. I was gonna say 3 as well, but I'm gonna go to 2.5 because, like, I'm really hoping it's gonna like outperform my expectations. I know it's gonna be beautiful, but I'm hoping that there's a little bit more than that, because if it's just that, like, I might be able to pull it to 3.
Okay, well, let's go.
Let's do this.
Catch you back after the movie.
Afters. Befores.
We're back. Yeah, no, that's not what I was thinking. I was
going to say, that's not really a thought. That's a statement.
I mean, yeah. What I was thinking was that this is going to be our first episode of the new year in 2020.
Oh, shit.
I'm probably going to put it out next Wednesday, which is like a week after New Year's.
Right. Well, Happy New Year's, everybody.
Woo! Yay.
Coming into the New Year's hot off the table.
Oh, man. With the biggest movie of Christmas.
Home Alone. Home Alone.
Die Hard, obviously.
Die Alone. Oh, you know what I was thinking before about like mixing the two titles? If you made a Home Alone, Die Hard, Die Alone.
Die Alone.
I would watch that.
Well, you know what I thought we should do, though? We should just one time just review Netflix. We open Netflix and we just scroll through and we just point out stuff that we hated and liked.
So we just scroll and be like, what? Like, and you know what would be funny is if we go there and we're like, oh, let's watch this, and then we type it in and it's not on Netflix.
Which is most of the
It's
time.
literally everything
It's
I want to watch.
A movie I really want to talk about is this one. Let's see if that. Fuck, they don't.
Like,
have
if we looked up Dragonheart right now, I bet it's not on Netflix.
Oh no! I mean, like anything you want to watch is not on there.
Yeah.
For sure. It's like they have the algorithm working so that they know what not to put on there. So that you'll have to watch something that's a Netflix original.
And then get hooked and then you're sucked.
Oh man, they're inside of our
right.
heads, man.
Yeah, they are.
But I thought that would be cool. Maybe just like, oh yeah, I watched that series like House of Cards. It turned really weird in the last season. Well, Kevin Spacey's all of a sudden gone.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Couldn't they have waited one more season before they found out all that shit about him?
But wait, yeah, exactly right. Could have been so much better if people just kind of. I mean, if you waited 25 years to come out, like, couldn't you just wait 26 years?
Yeah.
I thought we could do that, or what we also could do is like we could do an Oscar thing where we just look at who the nominated movies are for the Oscars and then just kind of give our opinion about it.
Right, like,
And it's probably not going to be good.
the thing is, it's really hard to even see the movies that are coming out.
That's true.
Actually, no.
We can just watch all the trailers and then just say which one's going to win.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because I was thinking about it. I was like, I never get a chance to see any of the movies before they're actually out of the Oscars. But that's only when I'm living in New Zealand. Now I'm in North America. They should all come out before.
They technically have to release it.
Like 1917 come out on Christmas Day and then take it out of theaters.
Yeah. Oh, it's coming out 26th, and then we want to go see it, and it's not out anywhere until somewhere in January, which is fucking stupid.
That's the worst. They should be. I mean, like, I'm really excited for that film, but I hope that they ban it. That's cheeky to do that like tiny limited release just to try and get an Oscar.
I mean, I think it's very normal. It happens a lot, right? Like, I mean, I feel lots of these movies
cheated
because like they can't really compete with the Star Warses and stuff. But they, like the ones that win Best Picture are not quite the big blockbuster Star Wars kind of movies.
Cats is winning Best Picture anyway, so they should have just saved themselves for next year.
I know. I think it should win Best Picture
of the decade.
Of the decade. Because they should do that.
Yeah.
The Oscars of the decade. The 20s.
We can do the Oscars of the
10s,
decade. I feel like our opinions matter more.
You know what? Let's do
Academy.
it. Who wants... How do we call it?
Before and after 10 years of movies?
Most outstanding movie of the decade with before and afters.
There we go. We only have to find one movie in the last 10 years that's worth.
I feel we should just call it Rick and Rory's Pleasure Stories.
There we go.
Of the decade.
Of the decade.
Of the decade. Rick and Rory's Pleasure Stories of the decade.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to pick what? Are we going to pick like a bunch of them and then let people vote and then we'll just don't listen to them?
Yeah, I like that. I think like it's a very strong part of our channel that we let people vote on shit and then just ignore it completely.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something we should keep doing.
We get a lot of like feedback. Like a lot of people's like, oh, why don't you just like, what if you do the podcast but you do it without Rory?
Yeah.
Right? And then I don't listen.
And you do it with me. And like it's so much worse because of it. And it's just like we're basically the American electoral system.
Yeah, you guys think you have a choice. You think this is a democratic system, but you're stuck with two Trumps.
But you can Tweedle Trump and Tweedle Trump. Trumple D and Trumple Dumb. There we go.
Okay.
Tweedle D and Tweedle Dumb.
Rick and Rory's Pleasure Stories
what as well.
of the decade. I think we should do it before I leave. Vote. It doesn't matter, but you should vote.
Yeah.
Because it makes us feel better the more people vote.
Just let us know what your favorite movies of the decade are, and we'll have if we haven't watched them, we probably won't. But
two things could happen. Either we agree, or we think you're a dumb fuck.
Yeah.
Which is you're probably a dumb fuck.
Or we agree, but we still think you're dumb.
Listen, if you listen to us,
there's got to be something wrong.
Yeah,
with
I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah, come on. There's a world out there.
Go back on Tinder. It's fine.
Yeah. But if you see either of us on there, right swipe for the likes.
Yeah. It's a vote. It's a vote.
Right. Yeah.
It makes us feel
I'm like, which way do you swipe?
Star Wars. I'm going to go out 2 stars. I'll give it a 2 stars, and I think it's the best thing that happened to this saga.
Because it finished.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say...
At least it's done.
2. I feel like I can't rate it lower than... Because I think 2 was what I gave to, whatever, Gemini Man or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this has
you can't really go lower than a 2 because...
No, it's just getting beat.
there's been some...
It's not even a movie.
There's also a lot of stuff that is great.
Yeah.
But what matters is not great. which is to me the story.
So, like, I was thinking about this, and I think, you know, as many cute little alien characters that they put in, and funny little droids that they put in to the, and beautiful CG like environments and stuff that they put into this movie, can't hide the fact that at the base of it, it's just empty.
Yeah,
that's how I felt about it. Like, exactly. I was just like, it's just chock full of like Deus Ex Machina and MacGuffins. It's just like they're flying at you from every direction.
It's let's start with what I I want to kick some open doors and say that it did look great.
Fuck yeah.
I think the visual effects was done really well. I think the acting is fine. I think the music is fine. Like, all of that stuff that kind of didn't distract me. Like, it all looked great. But it is ultimately comes down to the story. And it's just, like, I feel that we're kind of, I don't want to just shit on the story, but, or like on the movie, but it is.
But, I mean, the screenwriters did. You might as well have a go on it as well. That's how I felt. Like, it was just everything that went along, it was just super convenient, right? It was one of those things where, oh, we need to find this. Oh, we fell in and there it is. And like, oh, we need to get out of here. Oh, this, like, the thing gets out of the way and there's the way out. And it's like, this character dies. Oh, no, it didn't. Like, it tended out they were on another ship. And I was like, what other fucking ship? There was no other ship there. We saw that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, like, that's not smart writing. That was like literally like,
it's just cheating.
You're stupid. Like, we're just being like, oh, there were 2 ships there. Why? Just believe us. We said there were, so there are.
Yeah. No, I mean, the first thing I wrote down, because I take notes, the first thing I wrote down is that they are very much reactive characters. And I think the worst thing you could do is have reactive characters. You want active characters. You want something to happen in your movie because your main characters are doing things, and because they're doing things start to unravel. But when you have reactive characters, they don't do it, just happens to them and they have to react, instead of like they're doing stuff and stuff starts moving. And I think that's just the laziest way of writing a story, is when your characters are mostly reactive.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, hey, like when they found the sword with the with the Sith text on it, it's like, oh, we found a sword. Oh, conveniently it has the location of wherever the Wayfinder was. It's like, oh my god, it's so
that's the MacGuffins, right? Like they just have an item or something that progresses the plot forward, but it has no other purpose, and it's just conveniently placed there. Like,
but it's not. It's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to give yourself to, like, I think it's just absolutely, like,
it's lazy writing.
This is what JJ said, right? Like I said, like, I get all the frustration with people that don't like the movie, but hey, I can't just please everyone, right?
Right.
But I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
But this is just, I think we can say, universally lazy, shitty writing.
Yeah, like,
and people who disagree just don't understand storytelling.
Here, this is how if you took, okay, so I feel like a lot of people are blinded by the fact that it's Star Wars and it's filled with things that we love and we know. Like, if you removed the Star Wars element for it and you replaced it with a generic sci-fi with generic characters and a different, in a different universe, you wouldn't be interested in this. I feel like it wouldn't.
It's just dead.
Yeah,
it's just dead inside.
Like,
that's what this feels like.
You couldn't put in a stupid thing like they did with, oh look, there's Lando Calrissian just randomly on this planet in this ship. Like, the reason that works here on some levels, because people are like, oh, I know what that is. Like, that's Lando Calrissian. I don't need to know why he's here. I don't need to know how he got here. I don't need to know how these characters are interacting with him or why it even matters, because I know who he is and I remember him from something else. And I think that's lazy.
Oh, for sure. And it's like, I understand that you're trying to close down 40 years of filmmaking or whatever, but listen, this is the 3rd saga. We've done this 2 times already. Like, the other 2 sagas, we weren't crying our eyes out and like getting all these old characters back for nostalgic reasons. Like, I get it. Lando Calrissian, he was a big deal in the 1st saga. But let's move on.
Yeah.
We still have a bunch of other characters to deal with. Princess Leia, they still had her in there. Use that. And then they had, like, what I felt was really shit. Like, I understand, like, when they take Chewie and he flies off, and they have this actually quite a good battle.
Yeah, that was quite
for
cool.
once was really cool. And it turns to shit, and we all think, shit, Chewie's dead. He should have been dead.
Yeah.
And I get it. People would have said, like, you can't just kill like a character we love so much so easily. But yeah, you should.
It's like, yes,
you got
can.
50 characters in that movie that you love so much. You can lose a few.
Yeah.
At least you'll feel something, and the stakes are being raised. And now you're really like, wow, he killed Chewie. Let's fuck him up. You know? But if he just, like literally 5 minutes later, they're like, I sense Chewie.
He's still alive. And you're like, oh, okay, so I was thinking this the whole way through the film, right? Like, that happened with Chewie, and it's like, oh, no, they've actually killed him off, and then he comes back, and you're like, of course they did. And then C-3PO is like, I'm going to lose all my memories and know nobody, and you're like, oh, no.
They just bring it conveniently back.
Bring it all back. You're like, of course they do. Then,
they make such a big deal of it, but you know that they're not going to do it because they don't make too big of a deal out of it.
But then you go, the Palpatine fight, he like sucks all their life force out, and you're like, oh no, they're dead. It's like, no, they're not. Of course they're not. Force pushes like Ben Kenobi off the cliff. It's like, oh shit, he's dead. Oh no, he's not. And then it's like Rey dies, bring her back to life. Oh, of course she's not dead. Like, like it was just like, why like when you do that so many times as well throughout the film, it's like as soon as she died,
once, right? Like it's so many times.
Yeah, and as soon as you do that the first time, you're like, okay, cool. So now I know there's no stakes. So now every time you keep trying to fool me, I'm not even feeling anything the first time because I know it's not real. So why would I feel like, oh, C-3PO's going to lose his memories? I'm like, oh no, he'll get them back. Like you just know, so you don't feel anything in that moment because there's no stakes.
None of the good guys died in this movie. Which is like, is that really, like a great ending? Like, do you really feel like you really faced a threat if all the people that we know came away, got out of it alive?
Yeah.
Like the stakes were clearly not high enough. Like we're not writers. Like I could not write a movie that scale, if you put a $10 million in the thing, or like even $5, there's no way I could do it. But I know that this is a shit job in writing. Yeah. Like, there's just no excuse. Like, if your excuse is like, you can't please everyone, it's like, nah, this is just really fucking lazy. Like, and I know that probably, J.J. Abrams had some shit cards dealt. He had to pick up the slack of the other movies, or you had to make it work with what you had.
Right.
There were probably some limitations, but there's just no excuse for how lazy this story is.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Oh, dude, I know. I honestly, there were quite a few times, like, I was just so disappointed in it by halfway through that I was checking my watch as we were going. Like, I know it was just sad to say because it is gorgeous. Like, it does look super nice, and I've got so many cool set pieces.
And out of all the Star Wars, I was just watching Star Wars Episode 3. Out of all the Star Wars movies, actually the acting is the best in these movies. Like, even though the stories are not the best or the characters are not the strongest, like, at least their acting is solid. The visuals are solid, the fighting scenes are quite solid. But it's just really like number one issue is the story and the lack of really strong characters that you care for.
And the big thing for me, the biggest thing is just how it's all so convenient, right? Like when they're trying to find this thing, like they go on that planet. I mean, I think there's even more. This is just off the top of my head. I didn't even note it all down. But like they go to that planet and they're like, oh, this festival's going on, right?
Right.
And it's like, oh no, the bad guys have showed up. But Lando Calrissian shows up just in time to somehow knows they're there to save the day. And then they head to to go find the ship that like Calrissian and Solo both, Calrissian and Luke both went to check this out and couldn't find anything. Then they just fall in a hole.
Randomly get stuck.
Oh shit, we found it by just doing nothing.
Well, they get stuck in some, what is it, how you call it, like a sand pit?
Yeah.
Like
a sinking sand
yeah
thing.
Yeah, they get stuck, they go under. You're like, okay, well obviously they're not all gonna die, there's something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But
and it's
caves, what happens is that they're in a tunnel. It makes no sense that they got out in the tunnel.
But like even worse, they just stop. Oh, he died down here. We find his thing, and
you're
like,
how convenient.
How convenient. We didn't do anything special. We're not special in any way. We just found it, and there's And she's like, for no particular reason, she's just like, I'm gonna heal it, and then she does, and it just moves out of the way, and suddenly an opening to get out, and you're like,
it's so convenient.
And then when they go after that, they get on that guy's ship, which just works.
Yeah, I know. Why didn't they take their own ship? That's what I never like. How did they get there?
They were it was overrun by like Imperial troops, right? Like that town. But anyway, that old
conveniently they find an old ship.
Well, yeah,
which is like, also something that brings her back to her parents' memories or something.
Well, it just works. So that ship. So they get there, and then they go to that other planet where that chick knows Poe. And then
I know that's super annoying as well. It's like, oh hey,
and then she
how
tried. They
convenient.
hate each other.
They
though.
hate each other.
And then
exactly, I know where you're going with
They
this.
fight.
They hate each
Yeah,
other.
they hate each
fight
other. They fight, and then she's like, "We're best mates."
No, and then she's like, "All right, I'll take you to this guy."
Yeah.
And then it's like, "I got this coin. It's gonna take me out." And then it's like, "Do you want to come with me?"
Yeah.
And then he's like, "So yeah, they're best mates." You're like, "What?" Like, one, who is this chick? How did you go from enemies to being best mates, and then you're willing
to give up her life?
Not only,
basically.
yeah. Not only she's like, "Come with me."
Yeah.
When he says no, he's like, "Take the coin. You need it more than I do."
Yeah, because and up at that point she was like, I need, like, you know, I can't take the, like, you know, she's like post traumatic stress, like she needed to get out. You're like, oh man, her life sounds shit, like, but she's got a way out.
Yeah.
And she's gonna go, and she wants him to come with her. That's like, oh, some, you know, touching, I guess. And then it's like, but then, you know, he says no, so that's almost heartbreaking. But she needs to get out, so she's going to go alone.
Yeah.
Then she's like, oh no, just take this coin because you need to be able to get on the ship somehow, and this
Yeah.
is a convenient plot device to get you on there.
But you know what would work better? Like, if somehow the story was that we're going to save the galaxy by stopping the evil forces.
Yeah.
But she didn't know that. She didn't know that they were the last hope of saving the galaxy from this evil force and this evil army and stuff.
Right.
But if that was the plot that would have been telling, you know, if that was like, we're the last hope to save this galaxy, I could understand that she's like, I get it.
Yeah.
Take this token because you guys need it more than I do, and you guys are going to save the galaxy. But that was never a thing. It was just like, I hate you, we're best mates, take the coin.
Yeah, and then
Like, what?
and then, like, you know, I can't even remember how they got there, but they get on that planet with there's some more conveniently placed like rebels that have quit.
On ex-stormtroopers
Ex-stormtroopers.
that are now savages on horses.
And then she's like, I'm going to take the boat across the crazy ocean. And they're like, you can't do that. And she's like, jumps on it, and she goes. And you're like, okay, well.
And
I
she
guess
didn't even get wet.
But I'm
I
like,
couldn't even hold myself in. I said to the
You-
dude, she isn't even wet. It's like she goes on waves that is higher than the Empire State Building. She's plowing through it, and she's not even wet.
But like, she gets there, and in my like, you know, I'm like, okay, suspended disbelief. She's a Jedi. And then like Finn's like, oh, I've got to go after her. And they're like, no, don't. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to. And there just happens to be one more of those things.
Right.
And you're like, cool. And then he just does. And then they just get there. I was like, oh, how the fuck did he get there?
Was
He
no
isn't
trouble
special.
for him either.
No.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, it looks cool. Old Death Star. I get it. Like, you know, I almost wish you used it more. Like I would have been willingly giving up other worlds and other parts of the movie if more of it was around the old Death Star. You know, because things are so fleeting in this movie, like in the last few movies in general. But like, you know, so that looks really cool.
Yeah.
She goes there, she goes some weird climbing thing. You know, it looks cool, but it's a little bit over the top. And then it's like this whole thing that's just kind of destroyed and fallen apart. It clearly came falling out of the galaxy, and it crashed on this planet. And she gets to this door, and it just magically still functions. It just opens like it's an electrical door. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense in this movie.
And then the thing, yeah.
It would have been cooler if she had to pry the door open with her force strength or whatever.
Yeah. And then that actually brings me to the only real scene in this film that like I thought was really was well written, well done, right?
Okay.
So, you know, all the way through this movie, it's like J.J. Abrams has gone like, in Force Awakens, there was so many homages to everything, right? Because it was like, we're bringing Star Wars back. Like, here's homages to the originals. This is for the fans and stuff like that. And then in this one here, he just went for it, you know? Like, it was the same, like, all the way through, it was just homages.
Feels so good.
Yeah, it's like, do you guys remember this? Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember this?
Yep.
And like you know, like Lando Calrissian shows up, and then he's like, "I've got a bad feeling about this." And what was that supposed to give everyone? I'm like, "Oh shit, there's the line, and it's delivered by Lando," like thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, but anyway, so after that fight and like getting saved, and she leaves, and Ben Kenobi's kind of like coming to terms with what he's done in his past and who he really wants to be, and like who he can be, and like renouncing his Sith side, and that he's like learning that he can actually be a good person again. Like, just because he's done a lot of bad things doesn't mean he can't change. So he's coming to that realization, and he kind of sees Han Solo, like, you know, or like imagine seeing him there.
Yeah, right.
And it's kind of a touching father-son movement. Is he's kind of like, I've done too many bad things. He's like, no, you'll always be our son. Like, da 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 da.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, that's kind of emotional. And then he says, like, he's like, oh, Dad, and he goes to say something, and he doesn't say it. And then like Han Solo's like, I know. And like that he was gonna say like tell his dad he loved him because he never said it.
Right.
And then Han Solo does it exactly the same way he says it to Leia when just before he gets frozen.
Right.
And she's like, I love you, and he's like, I know, and then he gets frozen, right?
Right.
So it was done exactly the same delivery, and you're like, oh shit, that's a cool tie back to that with the same thing where it's like you knew he was gonna say he loved him, but he couldn't say the words because he's so like
he's such a Solo.
Yeah, and he's so like could have wrapped up in the fact that he doesn't think he deserves to say that because he's done so many bad things.
As good as that scene was in the movie, it could have been so much more powerful. For 3 movies, he's the bad guy. He's been trying to turn Rey evil.
Yeah.
Kind of like Darth Vader tried to turn Luke Skywalker evil. And in the end, he's not able to, and she turns him good, just like Luke turned Vader good. Which is like, it's already quite a strong parallel.
Yeah.
But okay, I can go with that. The thing is that if you're going to make such a big switch, which is massively important in the whole saga, which is basically, except for defeating the evil emperor, is the biggest thing in the saga, like, I would have wanted it to be a stronger emotional moment.
Right.
Like, because it was so easy. I felt like just her healing him and Leia giving some of her force to Ben. So she tried to turn him good as well. So the two of them kind of turned him good. And then Solo as well. Like, the elements were all there. It was just kind of rushed. Like, I felt like a lot of it was just kind of missed in the pacing and the acting of that particular moment. I wish it was more of a struggle. I wish it was more of a revelation, a bit more of a bigger thing would have happened, you know? Like, it was such a small little fleeting thing. While it was one of the most important parts of the whole trilogy. You've been so evil for so long, you could not be turned, and all of a sudden now you just like by a flick of a switch.
Yeah,
you're Ben Solo now.
Yeah, I guess I know. For me, I always felt like he'd kind of been fighting with it for the whole.
He was never a Darth Vader. He was never purely converted to the dark side, but I still wish it was more of a struggle.
Yeah,
because one of my favorite scenes of the saga probably is when he actually kills Solo.
Right.
And I think that's one of those scenes where there's a lot of time spent on it. There's a lot of, like tension being built up. There's a very strong conflict. And then he does the most brutalist thing that he could have done, which is killing Solo.
Yeah.
Which like in that movie was done really well.
And he's
done
like,
by the same guy.
And and as a character to kill off, it's like if once they killed off Han Solo, you're like, whoa, is everyone like, is everyone
expendable
like this bigger role?
Yeah. I feel like you should.
Yeah.
Like you should be able to kill off a Han Solo because it raises the stakes so much more if you do such a thing like that. And I said it earlier on, but like you need to be able to kill off Chewie.
Yeah.
Like if Chewie was actually dead, it made things so much more, meaningful that they actually did win. Like, yes, some heroes have fallen.
Yeah.
That's how war works.
And it's also
but not in Star Wars.
It's also, I think, like as far as human emotions go, it's like feeling one, like I feel like it works kind of how you've got like complementary colors, right? It's like this color works with this one that's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And like when you get those together, they work better. And I feel like that kind of works in the same way with emotions, where it's like if you feel really sad about something, it makes the things that are like joyous feel way happier, right? That's how it is in real life.
Yeah, the darker the dark, the brighter the bright, right?
Exactly. So if something like that is obviously going to make people mad, going to make people feel like shit, like fuck, everyone loves Chewie. But if that had happened, then when good things, like when they got revenge for that, when like they succeeded in stopping the guys who did it, it was like that would have meant so much more.
Yeah.
Whereas where it was just kind of like, oh yep, sweet, these Sith guys showed up and then they beat them, and I guess the Republic's safe again. Like I didn't feel the joy of joy that they all seem to feel at the end of that movie.
I was gonna say, to come back to like, I think my 2 favorite scenes in the movie, and one was massively underplayed. The one scene was where Rey goes into the room and finds the Wayfinder, and she sees herself as the supreme supreme leader or chancellor.
Like, it's like it literally flicks for a second. She sees like a bunch of stuff, and her flicking into with the hood on is like a brief moment, then it goes to something else.
Right. Like she fights herself for a second.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
So like she's got the red hood on and the red saber, the double lightsaber.
That's right. Yeah.
I wish there was more of that. Like I not so much that she, like I never doubted that she was always good in her heart.
Yeah.
Because I didn't necessarily feel like she would have to struggle with like, am I good, am I bad? No, we already had we already had Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
That was like struggling with his evilness. But it was cool. Like I would have loved to see evil Rey was kind of like a good indication of what is at stake. You know, like what she could be if she was evil. Which is quite bad, right? Like, yeah, she looks badass, fucking strong, but also like it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, don't go down that path. You do not want to be that person. It's a reminder. And it was only briefly. And, you know, like, it's a small little thing. I loved seeing it. I wish there was more of it. And then I think my second favorite scene was the Palpatine end scene.
Yeah.
Where she kind of like, where he gets like, you know, she reflects his force and he kind of like burns his face off and stuff. I thought it was quite cool. Like, I found it a little bit hard to believe that someone as powerful and strong and been around as long as Palpatine was so easily defeated with two lightsabers. But I guess
I feel like it was
the point could be made that all the Jedis are in these lightsabers,
right?
You know, and in my which I didn't really like that plot twist where it's like all the Siths are inside of me and all the Jedis are inside of you.
Yeah,
you know, it's like does it really work that way? Like, I've never heard it before. I'm sure they're not lying, but if that is how it works, then in 1,000 years from now, the Jedi and the Sith are getting stronger and stronger and stronger because you add up more and more Jedis and more Sith. So I felt that was like kind of like a weird little trick,
right,
to become super powerful. But I thought the scene itself was kind of cool, where he was using like when he was, you know, lightning up in the sky, and then back to her. You know, actually, what I also didn't mind, she is a Palpatine.
Right. Yeah.
As in, like, I thought that was satisfying. Like, we always wondered what she was. Was she a Skywalker? Was she not a Skywalker? I never really guessed it was a Palpatine. I never even thought about it, but maybe it's because I'm not so invested in the whole Star Wars world.
To be honest, I can't really like speak on that because for some reason, just like, you know, I'd open the homepage of YouTube and one of the videos that popped up before the movie came out was like I don't know, like a fan theory thing, and like it just in big bold letters like fan theory is Rey of Palpatine, and I was like,
right,
fuck.
The seed has already been planted.
Yeah, so it was already planted. So like I didn't even watch it or anything. I was just like,
but
scroll
the seed
past
is planted,
it, but it's planted. And so like it was basically at the point. I figured, oh yeah, it's probably true at the point right near the start where she's about to fly on her mission, and Leia's like, don't be afraid of who you really are.
Right.
And I was like, why the fuck would she say that? That's a weird ass thing to say to somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, like, is this just foreshadowing the fact that she's actually like, you know, made from this evil thing, and then she's actually going to be good, you know, like to fight, and then it turned out to be that, and that was another thing that annoyed me because at the time, like afterwards, I was just kind of thinking to myself, I was like, why the fuck did Leia say that? Like, obviously for this payoff, but how did she know? Right.
How did she know? Yeah, I liked it.
I think it was good she was a Palpatine. I thought it was a cool thing for her to be a Palpatine. I just think that was another unnecessary hint at the start. Like, right. It was unnecessary. Like, why did Leia need to know and like give her that? Like, I guess they needed someone somewhere to like keep telling her like she can accept who she is.
Right.
Which I think is basically the moral of the story. Like, accept where you come from and who you are doesn't necessarily mean who you're going to be.
You know what I was thinking as well?
Mm-hmm.
The Force. It's actually kind of like a boring thing. You know what I mean? Like, the things that it can do, it's fairly limited in the 9 movies or the 11 movies that we've seen by now.
Right.
Like Force push, Force choke.
Lightning, force heal.
Lightning. Heal. Mind
Levitate.
tricks. Levitate. What else?
You can throw your lightsaber and catch it again, like a boomerang.
I feel that's like levitating.
That's
It's fancy levitating.
I mean, like, it's, yeah.
Like, I mean, like, there's not necessarily anything wrong with it, but, like, we haven't really progressed what we know about the Force since the first 3 movies.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I never even thought of that. I was just too busy focused on all the other bullshit. Like,
I mean, like, I guess in all the things that they keep adding, maybe it's a good thing that they kept the Force simple. But if they would ever expand on anything, I would have hoped it was the Force.
Honestly,
instead of coming up with new stormtroopers.
the way this series
Or
is
droids.
going, I would have been like, the Force is created by this new fun little creature that, like, we're going to sell toys of, that's on this cool little planet that we've never heard of before. And, like, you'd be like, and they invented it with their cuteness.
Like that Baba Ganoush thing.
Yeah,
The little character.
little Baba Ganoush. I mean, like, he was
He's
funny. I
funny.
liked it, but, like, I was mad because it was like, this is why people aren't going to think this is a shit film.
Yeah.
Because this is like, this little guy's trying to distract you. He's like smoke and mirrors you away from the fact that the story's garbage.
Yeah, yeah. And that guy didn't bother me so much, but it was Squeaky Wheel.
Squeaky Wheel, the
Like the fucking
the other like
Conehead.
Convenient plot. Like, well,
Yeah.
he was, you know, they
It's
just made him.
another movie needs another droid.
There's like slightly different because this one like utters some words that we know, like, no, stay away, like,
Yeah.
and things like that. Like, I mean, it was funny little.
It was funny, but like, can we not make a Star Wars movie where we create a droid that we need to love? Like, I know, I get it. It's fucking merchandise, but even in this movie, they didn't even utilize Squeaky Wheel.
Yeah, they did.
No, I mean, not that much. It was just kind of squeaking around.
He was
said a few
squeaking
things-
around until
said
right
a
at
few
the
things,
end.
But he was at the end with the battlefield.
No.
He was part of it
Right-
together with BB-8.
No, because also right at the he was the one who was like, I'm going to tell you like what happened with Rey's parents because I've been programmed with that shit.
Right.
Because he was the droid from the guy who was taking them to Palpatine, right?
Wait, was he?
Yeah,
The Squeaky Wheel did.
Squeaky Wheel.
Oh, right.
That's why, because he was. They were like, oh, what something that I can't, man.
But there's so many, like, yeah, they pick him up. He's afraid for people. They see, like, oh, he's been mistreated. Never mentioned again.
Yeah, and then right at the end, just conveniently, they're like, we need some reason for Rey to know what happened with her parents.
Yeah.
Squeaky Wheel.
Squeaky Wheel.
Fucking Squeaky Wheel.
That's the same thing with C-3PO. He's like, oh, it's in Sith. It's like, oh, shit. Man, if only we had someone who could speak Sith. He's like, oh, I speak Sith. I know what it means. I know where it is. All right, tell us. I can't tell you.
Right.
I'm not allowed to speak Sith. It's like, for fuck's sake. Like such a MacGuffin to go to this useless planet, to talk to this useless guy, to uselessly wipe his brain, C-3PO's brain, to get the information. Like, we could have just skipped that whole bullshit, you know, like, and made the movie less shit by keeping that whole fucking planet out of the thing.
Yeah, like,
with
they
the
had so many
stupid
different-
warrior chick with the medallion and all that stuff. Like, that was all filler.
You know what else was filler and like didn't need to be there and was I thought was ridiculous as well. Like they could have, you know how they're like, oh, we need to have a ground assault to destroy this like antenna. There's like they're using to get the ships out of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then like
And then
they
they
get
just
there
turn
and,
it off.
and then they turn it off and they're using the one from the ship. Like and Finn's like, wait, it's on this ship. We need to destroy this
How
ship.
the fuck did he know that wasn't that ship?
The Force.
Right?
He just
So,
knew.
like,
I was like, are you fucking
now
serious?
He has the Force.
Yeah.
Everyone's in touch with their Force. And I guess, you know, I knew that, like, everyone could contain the Force. It's not unique to Jedi.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you know, like, it's just too convenient when we never knew that he had anything with the Force. And it just pops up whenever we need it.
It's like, I just have a feeling it's on that ship. It's like, cool, let's just like throw everything in there because he had a hunch.
Yeah.
Like it was unnecessary though. There was no reason. They could have just been like, the control ship will be giving the signal from the get go.
Yeah.
Or they could have said the ground one is the one that's giving the signal and made that the target. Like, but I feel like they could have just said the main ship.
We could have just cut out at least one of the antennas.
You could have just said they could have just said it's on the main ship. Like we need to. You know, we know that it's on the main ship and that we need to take that out because that's controlling everything.
Yeah, what if they just all broadcast?
What
If there's just not a main antenna? If they can make floating spaceships, you know, with planet-destroying cannons, can they not make a network that is not relying on one main antenna?
But I mean, that's the same thing
Whatever.
as that. I don't mind because it's like the Death Star. There's this one little thing you shoot in it,
Right.
right? But like, for me, it was just like, if you just see it from the get-go, the antenna's on the main ship, we need to destroy this ship, and then, like, it'll be fine. Then one, you've cut out them even bothering to start with the little one down there, so, and you cut out them going after the ship just based on Finn's premonition, and you're kind of like, cool, now that's
all
more...
too convenient, right?
Yeah, but that's more, that was scene time that could have been used somewhere else, which felt like it was skipped too fast.
They could have, like, spent more time on Kylo Ren turning back to Ben Solo a bit longer.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of stuff that was ridiculously pointless. That if they'd removed, they could have spent some more time on stuff that was actually interesting.
And you know what? With something like Star Wars, let's be honest, it is so easy to come up with something interesting. Like, you've got such a big playground of cool stuff you can work with. You don't need stupid fillers. Like, honestly, you can create a 3-hour movie with, like, fucking heavy plot points,
right?
You know, like with heavy story, you know, like no problem. So why is it so fucking difficult to come up with something at least half decent?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess all in all, like, why I'm so mad about this film is because I know it is breaking all these box office records, and people are like, you know, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's the more and more this is happening, the more it's excusing just basic half decent writing, right? I'm not even asking for a Star Wars film to be an Oscar-winning fucking Citizen Kane. I'm just asking for it to, like, yeah, exactly. Just try, like, just write. Like, I mean, surely with the amount of money they're spending on these things, they can hire good screenwriters or good writers.
Yeah,
like, just write it a few drafts. Like, this is the first draft.
Well, I mean, like, totally, and that's why it annoys me so much. You then get like someone like J.J. Abrams, who's actually, I think he's a good filmmaker. You know, like, I think he can easily. So I'm not sure how this all came to be, but him to then go out and say, like, you can't please everyone. It's like, dude, just try to please someone.
Yeah.
You know, like, because like someone needs to get blacklisted in the industry for writing shit like this.
It's funny that he says that, because honestly, this movie seems to me like a movie that's just trying to please everybody.
It is, but then it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's kind of like, yeah. I mean, it's putting all the nostalgia in there, which we don't need.
Yeah.
But which apparently you feel very necessary to put all of that stuff in there, and then you put no good story in there.
Yeah. So after saying, yeah, when he says that, I feel like this movie was made solely to cater to people who just love the idea of Star Wars. Like, it's not even, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's just...
But how many people, like, honestly, like, if you grew up watching Star Wars in the 1980s and you love Solo, you know, Chewbacca, Leia, like, and you've been living with that shit for 40 years, you cannot tell me that these people are satisfied with what was shown in that movie. That simple McDonald's piece of bullshit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I feel like, I reckon you're right. Like, I feel like most people are going to keep getting sick of this, but I feel like it's just got such
I think
a
it's
deep
a
enough...
new audience that is like the younger audience that doesn't quite understand, you know, like, storytelling, and it's just like easier satisfied with pretty visuals, and, you know, and then they have the few nostalgic things in there to kind of keep the parents coming back.
Basically, it's sugar cereal.
It is. It is basically sugar cereal.
I can stop feeding these kids sugar goddamn Crispios. Let's give them a nutritious breakfast, please. They're growing to better adults. I'm gonna go on record here and say that I reckon that our entertainment industry is why all the random fucked up shit that's happened in the world is in this case, because people are just, like, dumber. I mean, sure. I'm just saying a lot of angry things right now, but this movie really, really was, for me, the biggest disappointment this year.
The only thing why it's not is because I kind of was, like, bracing myself for it.
Yeah.
Like, I you know, like, the vibe was already out there that this movie wasn't going to be any better than The Last Jedi, which I already thought was quite shit. I had higher hopes, but by the time it came out, it was already kind of squashed.
Like, I reckon I could go watch the Cats movie and probably enjoy it more than this. Like
at least it's fresh. Like, at least it's going to be something you've never seen before.
I reckon at least I'll find it funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you're like, oh my God.
Like, this movie is, in my opinion, is like, I don't think it'll be anything more than showreel pieces for the artists who worked on it in the future, because like I said, like
it looks stunning.
It looks really nice, but it's just a series of images.
Yeah.
It's a series of images and nothing underneath it.
But even then, I feel like I also feel like they're creatively dead these days. Like, instead of, like, how many different stormtroopers can you come up with? You know, how many, instead of like one Star Destroyer, you need to have so many that they don't even fit on the screen. Like, I feel like their creativity is dead.
Yeah.
Like
your X-Wings have just got different colored stripes painted on the side.
Which is, you know what? And that's what I liked about The Mandalorian. At least they didn't try to reinvent what the saga, what the galaxy looked like.
Yeah.
They used old shit that we've already seen in the old movies, and they kind of just placed that around the movie. And I thought that was really cool. Like, you don't have to reinvent the world. You don't have to come up with new stormtroopers. You know, you don't have to have, you know, every film has its new colored stormtrooper. You know, first it's white, then it's black and white, then it's red, then it's black. You know, it's like you're running out of options, man. Like, there's only so many colors. Like, the next movie, there's going to be polka dots all over. Fucking polka dot trooper.
Polka dot troopers. I'm keen for that.
Oh my god!
Dalmatian troops.
And that's the same. Like, super cool idea about the Sith planet, and that he has magically some Star Destroyers, you know, stashed there. Great.
Don't know.
But like, you break this, like you break any sense of believability by having so many of them. Like, how do you have so many of them? How did you get all those people there to staff all those ships so quickly? Like, I feel like if you're going that route, I feel like you should see a more operation of how they got all the people there. Like, I know they mention it here and there. It's like, you know, get all the people from all the planets, and if they refuse, you know, we'll kill them. But I feel like at least I wanted to see it on the ground, that they're trying to train all these people, and that they're trying to, you know, get all these ship ready for battle, and like, none of that. It just floated there. It was ready to go. Yeah. It's like I just switched on my lights. Instead of switching on my lights, I turned on 10,000. What did I say? Like, we multiply our forces by 10,000, by magnitude of 10,000, and by just, you know.
Yeah. It's like even at least even at least, like, you go back to Star Wars, like the Clone Wars one.
There was a limit to it, right?
Well, it was more like they land on that planet, right? And it's like these guys have been making these clone troops, and they've been doing it for like 40 years in secret,
right?
Or whatever. And they've been like raising them and like raising this army and these kids and stuff, and it's really expensive. But it's like, it's been happy. You're like, that I can kind of believe this happened because it's been ongoing. They've been slowly building up this thing for a long amount of time. Like, I don't know where this one came from. It just sort of happened. Yeah. There's no mention about how it happened.
There's like I have no, you know, I'm not invested in that at all. Yeah. At all. If you can just like wish 10,000 Star Destroyers to life, you know, it just means nothing to me. Yeah. And I think that's just like, that and it's kind of the same way. It's like all the enemies they create. Like, you know, first it's the First Order. Like, every movie had its own enemy. At least in the first trilogy, it was all the Empire. Right. You know, instead of every movie having its own First Order, Final Order. I don't know what's in the middle of that movie. Probably still the First Order. But like, I mean, you know what I mean? So like, it's like, and that kind of ties in with another thing where it's like if you look at the first saga and the second saga, at least there's characters that are kind of always there. Like, and I get it. There's characters in these movies always there, like Ren, Finn, Kylo, and those people. But they also keep introducing new side characters. Right. You know, like in the last movie, they created this Asian side character that was minimized, like only had 3 seconds screen time in this movie.
But they keep cutting back to it.
But then they also introduced the dude from Lord of the Rings. Pippin?
Oh yeah, what was it?
Merry or Pippin?
Well, I mean, he might as well have been an extra. It's just that we recognize him. Like, he could have been anything.
I mean, great. Like, he wanted to be in a Star Wars movie. This is his way. Yeah. But like, don't give him a role. Make him an extra. Exactly. Like why introduce another character with like shit to say that has no meaning to the movie? Right. No meaning to the movie at all. Yeah. Is there anything good about this movie? It looks great.
It looks great.
It sounds great.
Actually, here's a little bit that's like just something that I picked up on, which I thought was like giggle worthy. Like I'm glad like with this new series in general, I guess, like they've been more inclusive, like gender inclusive, right? Like there's like female stormtroopers were never a thing in the early ones. Now they are. But like there was one point which I thought was really funny. I don't know if you picked up on it, but like when they were going to save Chewie, I think it was after they'd saved him, they were trying to get to the ship. And like they were running and they're shooting like heaps of stormtroopers, right?
Oh yeah, and they all die one by one.
They all die one by one, but like every time one dies, they play like a voice sound effect, and like they were playing one for one guy to girl. So it was like one guy would get shot and it'd be like, oh, and then the next one would get shot and it was obviously a woman, and they were going like, and I was like counting
I watched that sequence in a different way.
I was watching it and I was thinking to myself, I was just like, I was watching it normally as well, but then I just picked up on it and I was like, oh, like. It was alternating though. Like I don't know if like whoever did the at the end didn't think like maybe I could do 2 guy ones, 2 chick ones, and then a guy one or something like this. But like
one by
it was like one by one, and I was just about to because I think it must have happened like 7 times,
right?
6 or 7 times, and I was just about to lean over and like say like, dude, have you noticed that like it's getting one for one guy to girl killed, and then
said that.
Well, just before I did, like they get surrounded by like just as they get captured, and then like. It's like, then all the guys talking to them are dudes,
right.
Except for the last one, which was a chick, and I was like, damn it, they broke the streak. Like it was supposed to be 1 for 1. Anyway, I thought that was funny.
I was watching that same sequence and I got annoyed that like there were so many stormtroopers and they like, and I guess this has always been the case. Right. Like I'm not picking on something new, but like, fuck, their aim is shit.
Oh man, but I know that is, but that's why that last episode of The Mandalorian was so fucking funny. Good on Taika. You know, where those 2 dudes are sitting on the speeder bikes in the Mandalorian, and they're like, they just like randomly start. Wag. Yeah, and then one of them tries to shoot the can, and he can't hit it, and then the other guy gets his gun out and tries to shoot it, and they neither of them, it's a stationary object that isn't a good guy, and they both still can't hit it because they can't shoot for shit.
And it is funny. But and it has always been the case, and it's always been brought up. But like in that particular scene, they just took it to the next level, and it was just a little bit silly. Like like there's a way to like there's shit shooters, and then there's just like there's no way that by this point they didn't hit at least something.
Right.
But we can break every scene down, and we can find good and bad things. But do you think Rey was always a Palpatine in these 3 movies?
Like honestly, I wouldn't have even been surprised if the last movie was a complete rewrite.
Right?
I felt like it.
See, you get like this is what the whole saga felt like. Every movie's kind of like its own thing. But you'd think, and I'm assuming it is actually the case, but you'd think that when they started this saga, they had at least a quite detailed 3 movie structure.
Right.
Like they knew where the ending was going to be, they knew where the star was going to be, and of course as movies developed and as directors were brought on, some creative liberties were probably taken, but like if you look at the second movie, if you look at the first movie, great movie, second movie, so different, doesn't look at the first movie at all, and then JJ kind of has to go back and kind of ignore the middle movie, and but by then it's so far removed from the first movie that like none of them really tie that well together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just surprises me. So, like, I mean, maybe they came up. Maybe JJ came on board and he's like, listen, I only do this if she's a Palpatine or something. Like, it's a last minute, like, addition to the... Like, I wonder. I'm not sure. I'm just wondering. If someone knows, tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was thinking the same thing because it didn't make sense for something that, like, has always been done as trilogies, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
The first 3, the prequels.
Yeah.
It made sense that they'd have done this as a trilogy, like, from the get-go, and if they did, it makes sense that they'd have the bones of a story down. But, like...
And just to add is, like, if it was, because I love that Palpatine was back, like, that was not a bad thing. But then I wish he was already in the second movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you built that shit up.
Like, you'd have had, like, even though, before Snoke dying and stuff, if you just had it in the same way that, like, he sort of shows up in the first ones, right? Like, you get sort of a taste of the fact that there's something behind Vader.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, and that's why it makes me feel like Palpatine was, like, a last-minute, like, addition. And which would surprise me so much on a franchise that is worth so much to you, Disney. What are you doing? Hire us. Well, don't hire us because we can't do it. But
at least let us watch
you guys can't either.
Just let us watch the first screen test, please.
What was good about it? Give me something good.
That one scene was my highlight. I quite like that scene with Ben. At the end, she turned on her new lightsaber and it was yellow. I think that's a cool color.
Cool. And actually, and it has meaning to it apparently.
Oh, really? What's that?
There's a few different kind of things, but like one of the suggestions is that she is not necessarily a Jedi nor a Sith. She's kind of like a neutral party that just like is more like outside of the Force, outside of the Jedi Council. So she's kind of like an independent Force person,
right?
And another theory was that like the color from the lightsabers come from the kyber crystal in there, and the way you make your lightsaber. And I guess if you are Sith, it reacts a certain way, and if you're a Jedi, it reacts a certain way and it gets that color.
Right.
So I did like that it was yellow.
I mean, like for me, it was just
Whatever
because
it
I
means.
played video game, like the games where you get to make your own lightsaber, and I always made a yellow one. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, cool.
It looked cool.
Cool. But that was also tampered a little bit by the fact she's like Rey Skywalker. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever.
It's like I'm sorry, but you can't pick your last name just because you're a Palpatine. I find that like, there's people out there that says like she, she's free to choose. Like like the movie has kind of like gives her that freedom, and she's freedom to choose whatever she is. But like, do you really need to be a Skywalker?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one to choose.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't know.
It's a bit much. I do like, as you said, with gender inclusivity, that we have a female Jedi in the main role. I like that about the first movie, and I still really dig that. And I think she was a great main character. I think her acting was solid in this movie and all the movies. But obviously, she's suffering from the story.
I thought it was an interesting choice to have like sort of romantic connection between her and Ben. I thought like I also
it was always kind of like it was a little bit hinted at.
Yeah, I kind of
in
got
the
it
previous
like,
movie, but like I didn't really get it.
I got it like a little bit in the fact that they had some sort of drawn connection to each other.
But I don't know where it came from. Like I feel
they were linked by mind. So my way I sort of explained it away to myself was that obviously that however much time passed from when they first ever met to when the end of this movie happened, they would have had like some sort of symbiotic connection that was happening like subconsciously. Like they obviously talked to each other like more than we saw just in the films. It was happening all the time, right?
Yeah, but like the way I see it is that he is Hitler and she's trying to stop him.
She's Winston Churchill.
Well, Winston Churchill, exactly.
And they end up making out.
Fucking.
Yeah.
Which is really weird. It's just like, I don't see that ever happening.
But I mean,
even if they would actually fall in love, even if Winston Churchill fell in love with Adolf Hitler, like, I still think they're smart enough not to have sex.
Well, they didn't have
or
sex.
kiss.
Yeah. I don't know.
Make out in public.
It was a lot of adrenaline running after they just killed the Emperor and all that. So then he just brought it back to life and all that shit. But I thought it was funny that like for 3 movies, Finn was like obviously.
He's like, I need to tell you something. I'm in love. And then he falls in love straight away with that.
Did she? Oh, was that?
I'm pretty sure he was falling in love with that chick on the horse.
I didn't pick up on that. I just picked up.
Maybe
on,
no. Maybe it's when she was falling in love with him.
Yeah, it was definitely.
But I feel they wrote it in there because they couldn't have Finn be in love with her, and then she end up making out with Rey.
I feel like
Kylo.
they just. It was interesting. They never addressed it at the end because, like, obviously he was falling in, and she's like, "What now?" And he's like, he just never told her. That's the way I came across it because, like, I found it quite funny because for 3 movies, basically, she's been doing whatever she's got a lot on her plate, a lot to figure out about herself, about her place in the universe, Jedis and all that stuff, and she's following that. That's her main goal. Yeah. And for 3 movies, Finn's been trying to tag along and literally being useless, almost dying, and then her taking off and not even acknowledging him like every single time. Yeah. And I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And I think the banter around it is funny too, where he's like, "I want to tell you something," and then Poe is like, "What were you going to tell her?" And it's like, "I'm not going to tell you. Like, why don't you tell me until you tell me what you have to tell me?" And like,
it was funny when they're about to die and he's like, "Come on, man, you think now's not the time?" But like, honestly, I mean, like we were supposed to be saying things we liked about this, but I honestly felt like the banter between the three characters was pretty dry a lot of the time too.
I mean, I felt in this movie there was very little chemistry.
Yeah,
like
there we go.
I feel like there
Chemistry
was
in general.
also there wasn't a lot of opportunity given. Like I felt the second movie kind of did that. I think the first movie created the chemistry.
Yeah.
It was kind of working, and then the second movie pulled them all apart. They were all in different places doing their own thing.
Right.
And I think it just never really came back together in this movie.
I also felt like in this one here that like they tried to force the chemistry back in by just making like lots of silly one-liners and jokes, and like, you know, they'd have like those sort of arguments where they talk like Gilmore Girls style, where they talk so fast they haven't actually had time to listen to what the last person's finished saying.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, but it gives this like air of like characters knowing each other really well and having banter. But like, to me, it just sounded like every time they actually interacted was just silly like puns and jokes at each other, or like silly like, you know, friendly jabby arguments. But it was
jabs.
I was just like, there was no real gravitas to the emotional connections any of them had together, except when they hug when everything goes good.
Yeah. Okay, well, this might actually be the longest rant on a shitty movie.
I know, it's
had.
really hard to like. I mean, I really hate to be this mad about anything, but people are gonna call me out on that. They're like, "Fuck off! You love being mad about shit."
Yeah.
But
I
like,
mean, it's more fun to rant than just, you know. But like the other thing is that we both feel very similar about the whole thing, which is like, you know, should we get a third person in here?
somebody who loves the movie, like I'm just gonna be sitting there like, how? That's what it's gonna be. How did you love
He's
this?
like, we'll just slap him. We don't respect you with your stupid positive opinions about Star Wars. Do you think a third person would make this different? Would add to it?
If it was, I mean, like,
We couldn't with the
no,
gear,
but, yeah,
but
I'm saying like, you mean
hypothetically.
in general for the podcast, or
Yeah.
for this particular thing, like somebody who's like a devil's advocate for this movie.
I mean, I guess, you would hope with three people you get a little bit more devil's advocate or like a more diverse opinion, but you know, you would probably have to find someone who loves everything, because we kind of hate everything.
I feel like most people who have mentioned this movie didn't hate it like I do. The way
they're just like in denial. Let's be honest.
But it's basically like saying, I feel like all the compliments about the movie, no one's ever said it's a good film, but they say like, you know, it's not that bad. Like you know, it's just, you know, it's enjoyable or something. But I feel like it's almost just like saying like, well, it's not Hitler. You know, it's like it's calling out one of those. It's like, oh, well, it's not the trashiest movie in the world, but it's basically
it's not. Let's be honest. It's not Hitler, but you know, like. You know, Star Wars is a big deal.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of money spent on it. There's a lot of love been poured into it. And I respect what everyone has done, except for the story.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, is there a saying in English where it's like the high trees catch a lot of wind? That's one in the Netherlands anyway. High trees catch a lot of wind. And this is a high tree. It's catching, like, you know, like, I'm sorry, but you're going to get scrutinized.
Yeah.
And like in that way, J.J. Abrams is right. Like you can't win, but you can definitely lose. And you've definitely lost with this one. Like the story, anyway, you know, so yeah, I don't want to tear it down.
No.
And I mean, like in the end, I enjoyed sitting in the cinema and watching it. Like I know maybe you less so, and I was not impressed, but I was still entertained. Like I can see past all of my annoyances and still see a fun, entertaining movie. I just wait. Like, but if it heck called it something different that wasn't Star Wars, I would have been less judgmental about it. But because it is Star Wars and it has such a, you know, history and such a long story and so much background to it, you just disappointed me.
I don't know. I disagree on that one. I think that if it wasn't Star Wars, I think this would be even more garbage.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that I was entertained.
Right.
Like, I thought it was still like on the grander scheme of things, like it is, you know, and compared to a lot of other movies out there, like it wasn't not entertaining. But I was disappointed by the quality of it.
Like I honestly don't think it was entertaining. I honestly can't think of many movies I was less entertained in than this.
Yeah, but like, could it potentially be because you're so invested in?
Because no, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. It's like if it was something else.
Like, I know that it is a weak story with like lots of MacGuffins and convenient plot points. Like, that wouldn't have changed any movie you would put in there.
No,
but it could still have been entertaining.
I think
like Mad Max has no fucking story, and I fucking loved it. You know.
Yeah, but like that's the thing because it's. I
guess Star Wars.
It does have. It has one like Mad Max
is
one story.
And it doesn't pretend to be anything more.
No, it's like, this is a goal. This is what we're trying to do. And then we're following these people while it happens. Like, these people are trying to do this. These people are trying to stop them.
Yeah.
Let's follow the story. Like, here, it's just like, it's all over the place. Like, heaps of different shit is happening. Like, what I'm trying to say, though, is that I think it being Star Wars is the only thing that makes it more it's more, I can accept it a little bit more because at least I'm still seeing cool, you know, like lightsaber battles and Jedis and stuff. Like, lightsaber battles are cool and shit, but like if you put this entire story in another universe with another like characters that had no relevance to me, like there was no Chewbacca, that was just a character that was a friend of theirs, and like you replace Jedi sword fighting with like something like
stick fights.
Well, even if it wasn't hand-to-hand combat, if they had some sort of two people fighting, it was hand-to-hand even, right? Like, it would have been more shit, like, because this, like, the story.
I get what you're saying, but do you think because it's Star Wars, it also automatically
makes me judge it harder?
Yes,
I don't.
Just
think so.
Because you say like it wouldn't have worked, it would have worked even worse in a completely independent movie. I feel I'm definitely judging it harder because it's Star Wars, but that's okay.
But I just feel like if this wasn't Star Wars, it would never have got made because it's that bad. That's how I feel about it. Like, I was like, from get go all the way through, I'm just like, it's just so convenient.
I'm totally with you, but
like, I feel like if this wasn't Star Wars, somebody would have been like, you know how you take someone like Luc Besson's like Valerian, for example, right?
Yeah.
That was another sci-fi movie which didn't do very well, right? Because like the story wasn't great. Mm-hmm. But they took a long time to try and greenlight that film because no one knew what it was. And then like they weren't happy with a lot of stuff, and that eventually got greenlit. Like, I feel like if this movie wasn't Star Wars, no one would have greenlit it because it's garbage. Right. Which is why I'm mad, because of Star Wars, they let this trash story get made and put on a big screen and take, you know, like, maybe I could have been watching 1917 last night instead of that, because like maybe they would have been like, we can release it because we don't have to to fight for the box office.
If Star Wars wasn't in the cinemas, they didn't have to fight for that.
Yeah, I just think a movie that is this like poorly written shouldn't be stealing box office, like shouldn't be something that other movies are worried about competing against.
You know, when I was booking the tickets, like, I think I would say that 80% of that cinema was booked with Star Wars. Yeah. Like, they had IMAX, they had 3D, they had some fancy seats, they had regular. They had two different normal 3D things, like big screen, small screen, IMAX, and then the regular. Right. Like, and they all had their own times, obviously.
But that's why, like, I'm like, I know we didn't do a podcast for it because we didn't really have time. It kind of happened off the cuff. But I'm glad I went and saw Knives Out at the cinema. Yeah. Because, you know, it's not going to define a genre or break any records, but it was really enjoyable. It was something a little bit unique.
Yeah.
Like
it was a fresh story. Yeah, like, at least it wasn't an existing property.
Like, I was entertained throughout all of that. Like,
yeah.
With, you know,
it wasn't the brightest story, but I totally agree.
And I'm just like, it's rare that a movie like that even comes out.
4 stars. I'll give that one 4 stars.
Yeah, I'd give that 4 as well. And I'm like,
entertaining.
But the thing is,
I almost did a little little clip,
we were doing a review of Star Wars, but you know what's actually good? Knives Out.
Yeah, go see that one.
It's actually pretty cool. Daniel Craig's got a funny Southern accent.
We're destroying the Star Wars box office, and you'll see like the $1 billion Star Wars made. All of a sudden, the next day it's gone, and it will be added to the Knives Out because we said so.
Well, you know, the point I'm trying to make with it is that, like, right now, Star Wars is out. We're doing a podcast about Star Wars. We didn't do a podcast about this film. Right. But I almost never even saw it because I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna go. You know, I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Yeah. But we need to go see Star Wars, right? So like, you know, when you're making the choices, like what movies are we going to go see? We go and see this.
Yeah.
And like when you choose this over other movies that are out at the similar time, you just feel like I feel that everyone's been cheated when they haven't obviously put in the effort that you'd expect them to put in for it.
Well,
that's
and
what
it
I felt
definitely
like
doesn't.
happened with
It definitely doesn't deserve 80% of the capacity of a film theater.
Yeah.
You know, and that we were talking about this in the kitchen the other day about how mid-budget films are disappearing.
Yeah.
Because, quite frankly, either they're really, really small budgets for 30 million or something, or they're like 200 million plus. There's nothing in between anymore because, you know, they're all betting big. And the medium movies that are still quite risky, they just don't get any space at the cinema anymore.
Yeah. But like, and again as well, like Star Wars, it's got, you look at the credits for it, so many people working to make this film happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like it cheats all of them as well. Like they've worked really hard and done a really good job just to like, you know,
being let down at the
basis, the very basis,
the base of the movie, which is the story. And I always, you know, we were bringing it up before, but it's like, you know, you spend so much money on a movie, how can you not come up with a solid, you know, at least basis structure for your movie? You know, like, I don't want you to, like, I don't expect you to be the most original or like come up with something brand new. Like, even if you copy the first or the second or the original trilogy, you know, fine, but at least make it, you know, like a solid story.
Yeah.
Is that so much to ask? You know, like characters you care about, stakes that are high enough, you know, and problems that are difficult to solve, not just problems that get resolved for you by magically appearing, like, you know, appearing on in your lap.
Yeah.
Which is happening in this movie. Conveniently, just things popping up, like, hey, do this, do that.
Yeah, it's just found like we've done the scene. We need to segue to the next one. There's the thing that's going to let us lazy writing. I think
bad, just bad. But there's so many people involved. Like, can you really blame just the writing? Like, there must be something else.
Maybe they wrote something good and they keep getting rewritten and drowned down until it's who knows? I don't know. I don't know of all the answers. All I know is I went to watch that movie and I was disappointed.
All right, go fuck yourself, Star Wars.
Yeah,
I hate you. I'm glad. I'm glad this saga ended.
That's a soundbite.
Yeah, don't make another Star Wars movie for the next 5 years because you fucked it for sure. Mandalorian, at least, is doing it a little bit better.
Yeah, I guess what are we gonna wait on now? Like Avatar, is that gonna be the next thing to see? What
Avatar, go fuck yourself. You're gonna be shit too.
Whoa, we hit it here first.
Yeah, 2 stars. I was watching Disney Plus earlier today, and I realized that Disney actually doesn't have that many interesting shit.
No.
Besides The Mandalorian.
Like,
and there's a few straight, you know, like Lady and the Tramp and that kind of stuff, but I'm not so interested in that.
Like, I signed up for it over Christmas, right?
Yeah.
For Christmas, like Home Alone 1 and 2, basically.
Yeah, we
and
have
then
to see that shit.
We watched the last episode of The Mandalorian, and then like we watched the Mandalorian series, and then I was just like, cool. And then I had a little browse through, and I was like, this is great for families, but not for mine.
I know, yeah. Like all the classic movies, and there's like a lot of great content there. But just like Apple TV, they actually don't have that much new shit coming out.
Yeah.
Disney, what the fuck? You fucked up Star Wars. You're gonna fuck up Avatar. Give us some good shit on Disney Plus.
Yeah, or sponsor us, and then we'll say nice things.
Yeah. If you
Star Wars is my favorite movie 2020.
If you sponsor us, Sporky is our favorite show of 2020.
Yeah.
All sign up for Disney Plus. I'm just giving you a little sample.
I only saw that one episode of Sporky, and I had a few drinks, but like it was pretty.
You giggled.
I giggled a lot.
About dating, right?
Yeah. Well, it was a couple. We watched a couple. We watched that one, and we watched one about like
love. One was about love.
Love. It was love, and then
Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, these are actually hilarious. I'm gonna watch the rest of them.
They're pretty good. All right. Well, Pixar's still doing good stuff. We're both going to be off on a holiday, so there will be a gap.
Oh, there will be. That's right.
There will be a gap. Someone's going to get married. Neither of us. Neither of us. But yeah, the start will be a little bit slow, but we'll be back. Peace.
Peace out.